kick off. And again, I'd like to extend that same thank you to everyone that's attending. Account rollups. It's a short topic. We're going to do our best to cover it well. We definitely have plenty of time to do so, but it is one of those little gems in GP that we often overlook as implementation consultants. It's one of those kind of cool little features once you know it exists and find out how easy it is to configure. And along that same topic, that's really what we're going to be covering at DynamicsCon that Judy talked about, is some more of these, I'm going to call them gems, right? Little trinkets that we find in GP that we may not know existed, or maybe we knew existed, but we're using them for something else. I'm going to hop right into product today. It's definitely not something we need to spend a ton of time setting the stage, but think of it this way. If I wanted to know my balance today out of a P&L trial balance run, I literally have to have that report definition created. I need to go click the button. I need to wait for the report to generate, and I get a fabulous GP report writer report where I can print it, circle the number, and lay it on my desk, right? Account rollups, one of the fabulous things you can do with it would be a hot P&L, and that'll be what we'll probably set up today. And I'm just, with that, I'm going to hop right in, and we're going to take a look at GP. And it's kind of interesting. It's one of those items that, as an ex-user, a Dynamics GP user, it's one of those things, I've clicked on in the past, and I'm like, I wonder what that does. And hopefully you all do that as well, especially when you're in the inquiry area of any of the modules. You can't hurt anything when you're in an inquiry area. Poke, click, test, try, play, because all you're doing is looking at information. You can't harm it. You can't create a transaction that's going to cause a problem, but you might find some cool insight into a tool that can give you some great information. And Account Rollups is one. And here it is in our financial series under Inquiry. And I'll click on that Account Rollup. I almost clicked on the wrong one. It's been a while since I've done a webinar. And right out of the gate, you get this fabulous inquiry window. And I know the first time I looked at it in a live environment, it did nothing, right? Redisplay, not all fields have been entered. I type something in, and it's like, oh my goodness, what is this thing supposed to do? Close the window, move on, forget about it. Incredibly though, if you have Fabricam installed and you were to click around just a tiny bit and you hit this lookup, you would see that they have a sales account rollup already built. So again, in our Fabricam, they often try to demonstrate for us, they being Microsoft, some of the features that are in the product. And with that, I'm going to start today looking at our sales option ID. I picked it, nothing happened. It's like, okay, great, Kurt. Thanks for showing that to us. We got a redisplay button up here. So I click on that redisplay button, and we get a window with some data. And the top, we've got naming convention about what's in the data, the current year's numbers, last year's numbers, a budget number, and a difference. Okay, but I still don't at this point know what any of these numbers could possibly mean, other than I know they're period balances. At net change, I could look at it from a period balance standpoint as well. Both are available. But if I click on that modify button, I get basically the smart window behind this. And that smart window is where the magic happens. So if I click on that modify button and I open up the options window, this is where we actually define our account rollup. And we can have as many of these set up as we want. Each one of them allows us to have multiple columns, 1, 2, 3, or 4, within those columns, we can define what we want to display. So in this one, if I look at what is it displaying, an actual number, a budgetary number, a calculated value, a value from the previous year, or possibly I'm in a multi-currency environment and I want to see the value in a different currency. Along that same logic, I can name this anything I want. This is for us, okay? Same way on that budget, right? I can have two of these looking at two different budgets. I would just name them uniquely with my option ID. And then the magic. What accounts am I selecting for my roll-up? And in this case, it is all of the sales accounts that have been created in Fabricam. And they were added very simply by using the insert range option, by looking up an account, picking a beginning account number, and then just what you want to watch is someone clicking through a whole bunch of numbers, but we'll get to the beginning here. They selected the 4 and rolled it in by clicking insert after they put an end range. Very simple process. And then to get back to that window, we can click inquiry. I'll save those changes just for giggles. Same old thing, where's my data? We click redisplay and it comes back to life. If I roll back a year, my numbers obviously change because now I'm -1, -2. My budget number didn't change. My budget is looking at a named budget. Okay, so I would call that possibly a limitation. We didn't roll back and suddenly marry up to the 2026 budget. I'm still looking at the same named budget. So with all that said, when I was prepping for today, we actually do spend a little time thinking about what we're going to present in a webinar. I really thought, what if I rolled up my P&L and started going at it from that perspective? So we can do that very easily if we just start from the beginning, close it all out, go to my account rollup window. I can type in an option ID now, or I can hit modify, and here I can put in an option ID. And maybe it's, let's say division P L. Okay. And we're going to just stage through it one step at a time. Again, super simple product, or I'm going to say feature to work through. I tab in. My column heading, I could actually say, oh boy, call it, I'm just going to name it so you can see it's different. And that it does look different than my sale, right? And then I need to pick my account range. And we're going to just start, again, very simple. We'll say pick our account. And this is our segmentation, right? Each segment has a name. Yours may look completely different than this, but we can make sense of it if we understand how our account segments are named. And I'll just start with the beginning of my P&L accounts, and I'll go all the way to my last P&L account. And let's just insert that. And all of that done, I can go to my inquiry window, save that, hit redisplay. Now I get a period net change. Let's look at period balance for 2027. My total P&L. If I want to see what makes up this number, I can drill in and see what's making up that number. So all of these are adding together to come up with that number. They're rolling up. Fabulous feature. But that's still pretty simplistic at this point. And you saw the sales one had a lot more information in it. And again, we can continue down that same path. We could come back into our setup window and I'm going to close this button, save it. Let's go here, let's go modify. I was having a problem getting back to that window. We'll play with that a little more. And from that perspective, we want to add an additional column. We just increase the quantity. We get a column number 2, and let's make that look at last year. Maybe do nothing else other than say LY. Pretty creative at this point. It is a Wednesday afternoon. We're almost to the weekend. And we'll redisplay that. And now I see this year's number, last year's number. Again, fairly cool, right? And it's been super easy to do. Next thing, we could actually come back over. Let's add a third one and let's get a little more creative. Let's do a calculated column. This is where it gets a little trickier. If I click over here on my selection, we'll say math, right? I click on my selection. I now see a go-to arrow. We see these all over in GP. Anytime you see a little blue arrow, you got to click on it. You got to find out what it does, right? It takes you to another window. And in this case, it's where I can decide what I want to do for my math equation. I'm pretty simple today. We're going to just take the difference between this year and last year. So if I take my column and insert it into the equation, see the chevrons? So now it says that that's been added. I can then add a subtraction, and I will grab last year and insert it and click OK. And at that point, we can go back to our inquiry window, save our changes, redisplay, come on. All right, so I obviously did something wrong with our calculated column. Let's go back and take a look at it. C1 minus C2. There's nothing wrong with that. I did do minus, right? Did. Let's remove those. It's a good exercise. We're blank. I'm going to try that one more time just to see if I made a mistake. Insert that. Let's subtract it. Last year. Looks right to me. We'll click OK. Okay, calculated. Save. Redisplay. Well, goodness sakes. We're going to go back to my sales one and we're going to look at it. You get the gist of what we're doing here. It's always great when you're doing a demo and it doesn't work as you rehearsed. And it's always good. Let's go back real quick and take a look at sales because I did add one there. And again, my calculated on this one. I did C1 minus C3, and it worked like a charm. So that's very interesting. Let's actually save that one. And let's redisplay. And it does work. Okay, that's interesting. We're going to take one more shot at the one I built, and in the meantime, we'll play a little more. We'll add a budget just because. I'll go back into that divisional P&L. Oh, and we want to add a division to it. So let's go ahead and redisplay that. We'll go into our modify. Math is not there. That's fabulous. Okay, so we'll do our third column. Put in budget. Add that budget. Here we get a lookup so I can pick the budget. I believe my budget 3 has some good values in it. And I'll click save, redisplay. Budget pulls in, looks great. Now, let's get this so we can add one more restriction. I think that's also where some of the power comes in. If I go back into my modify, we can now start looking at it from another perspective, in the sense of maybe I want to look at it from my divisions, and I only want to run this for the consulting and training division. And I'll click insert on that. And let's go look at that inquiry. And we get different numbers, right? So apparently consulting is not making it to their budget, but generally speaking, this is very powerful in the sense that we can have that at our fingertips, super easy. And of course, one thing that you always want to do, anything like this that's made to be quick, don't forget that you can add it to your shortcuts. And then if you were to log into GP on that home work center, I actually have my account rollups window here. I can pick which one I want to see. Hit redisplay, and there's my numbers. And I did mention that, you know, when we want to run that P&L and figure out where we're at and what our number is, often we need to be able to hand it to somebody, right? So, and or do some investigating. I already showed you that we can dig in by clicking the links, see what makes up that number, but there's a print button at the top, and it is helpful. So it does print a very nice report showing both the net change component or the period balance component. I scroll over a little bit to see that. And then in the same thought process, if I were to drill in, I can print from here as well. So again, a great little gem. Many things we can think of to do with it. Maybe the expenses for a particular department you want to keep your finger on, get that grouping of expense codes, GL accounts put together. You'd be able to see the budget for those expenses. And again, pick that option, whichever you had built, and redisplay, and there it is. There's your numbers. So I think it's fun. Not very complicated. We can remove that division and maybe add a different or a range. Same as we did with our accounts. We could say, show me accounting through consulting. We've added 4 restrictions. A quick save on that and a redisplay. And again, different numbers. Our budget's different. All of that. Drill in. We can see our budgetary values. And that is account rollups. And as I said before, our session coming up at Dynamics Con is going to be a few more of these fun, simple tools where we all get additional value. And I think at that, Judy, do we have anybody with questions, comments, maybe someone saying, okay, great, your calculation doesn't work, what do I do? That's what we're here for. You run into something, build one, and it doesn't quite do what you want it to do. That's what implementation specialist does every day, answer questions and help customers get things working the way they want them.
Well, great, Kurt. Everything's been just wonderful here. We love this presentation, and we even have a comment and question here for you. So it says, very cool tool. You mentioned you could add multiple options. So could I add several account roll-up options so I have the budget associated with the year? I could name each one with a year to keep it straight. Can you show the setup screen one more time? And I'd like to see if we can hard code the year for actuals. Thank you.
I think what we would end up doing in that case is each option that we wanted to create, we would build it by year. In my take on it. So if we were to do year 27, then we have an option ID for year 27. And then in that case, again, the budget that we would assign here, if I understand the question comment correct, we would want that budget here to be, and we'll pick budget 3. We'll assume it's the 2027 budget, and we could name that here. Right, so that way we have that information. I'll just quickly throw in that same account range. There's a good one. You actually have to tell it what you're trying to add, just like any other lookup. And I'll insert that. When we click inquiry, if we haven't clicked save yet, it just asks us to save it again. And then when I redisplay, now I know I'm seeing budget 27 and year 27. And from that same perspective, we can display it. For our entire P&L. Oh, I missed an option, right? Printing those reports. I talked about net change, period balance, summary versus detail. When we drill in, whether or not we want to see the detail when we hit print or summary. Unable to print a budget column. Gotta love it. There's no drill down there. We're already seeing all the detail for a budget. And again, adding it, doesn't matter what order we go after this. I've got my budget in column 1. I could throw my actuals in now. Nothing to choose there. We'll click save. That's interesting. Same as our calc field. Let's close that. We do a lot of crazy things to our environments. It's very possible I've done something to snag that up just a little bit.
Well, all this is very, very helpful, Kurt. We just, we're getting a lot of thank you comments, and it's all very helpful. And if I added a new account segment, would I just insert that into the appropriate option? Is that correct?
If we utilize ranges, no, that is correct. We would have to remove and re-add the range because I do not believe adding a new account would pull it. I've actually ran into that before. So we would want to then re-add that. So that didn't save. The second one I had it didn't save, but it named it. So that's kind of interesting. And again, I'm not going to blame Microsoft. I'm going to blame me on that. That's, like I said, we do a lot of crazy things to our environments.
The sample data is always just an interesting place to play.
Yeah, and there it is. So now it pulled, And then, but from that same perspective, we think about Management Reporter and the old FRX, and you build your reports utilizing a range. But if you look at how this is actually portrayed, it's listing every account. It's been pulled into this based on this. So now if I were to add an account 4113, it wouldn't pull. I would need to add it and hit insert because it wouldn't be in the range as we added new accounts. We definitely need to maintain this. That was a great question.
This is just wonderful, and it's just so fun to see that this is actually a feature in the product. Oh, I'm just excited about it. So thank you so much. Great demo, Kurt. So any other questions? You're getting a lot of thank yous, Kurt. So great job.
Great.
Okay. And just a quick reminder as we're closing up, check out the newsletter that you received in your email today, and Kurt will be doing the Dynamics Con on Wednesday, March 16th at 11 Central Time. So feel free to register for the event now, and we hope to see you next week and at the upcoming events.
And
thank you.
Judy,
Anything
quick
else?
question.
Yes.
Is there a charge for end users to attend Dynamics Con?
There is no charge. This is a free event for end users, for customers, as well as partners. We actually have a booth there as well, and you can come by the booth and visit with us, and Kurt or I will be hanging out in the booth. But this whole event, this training that is taking place on GP, is virtual. It's free, and it's sponsored by Dynamics Con. So come and learn something new each day.
Thank you so much, Judy.
Have a great day. Thank you all for attending, and have a super day. Let us know if there's any questions. Just feel free to email Kurt or myself at Judy at iscorp.biz or Kurt at iscorp.biz. Thank you and have a super day.